Hello there and welcome to this vlog of October 2022, and we finally have some Kickstarter news, although it's probably not the news that most people wanted to hear, unfortunately. What I'm going to do in this video though is I'm just going to actually read out the statement that Catalyst have released, and what I'll then do is I'll kind of read between the lines on it and highlight some key points in there that I think are quite interesting. I'll then run through like a pros and cons for what we now know, and then I'll sum up. So to surmise though, straight up, there has been a delay in the Kickstarter. They were going to release it in the fourth quarter of this year, so that's between October and December. But they've now decided to do March 2023. So a few months of a delay. Again, I'll run through the pros and cons at the back end of this video. For now, though, let me read out this. It's a very short and concise statement. So rather than share my screen, I'll just read it, and then there are some key points in there that I'll flag. This, by the way, is on the BattleTech.com news site. Just Google that, and if you've never seen it before, it's actually quite a useful site if you do like to keep up with the BattleTech news. Anyway, this is titled Mercenaries on the Move. It was published a few hours ago, and it reads: The much anticipated BattleTech Mercenaries Kickstarter campaign has been officially scheduled for late March 2023. As recently as last month, Catalyst Game Labs intended to launch the campaign in Q4 2022. However, the overwhelming recent success of BattleTech following the Clan Invasion Kickstarter necessitated the move. We simply can't make new products quickly enough, stated Lauren Coleman, CGL's founder and owner. We've created more than half a dozen new BattleTech products in the last year, including the new Alpha Strike box set. Our miniature sculptors need more time to complete the designs required to launch the Mercenaries Kickstarter. The Mercenaries campaign will introduce over 50 new designs, including mechs, armoured and support vehicles, a VTOL, and a new aerospace fighter. Catalyst intends to have all of the new miniature sculpts completed before launching the next campaign in an effort to prevent long delays in production. Though the campaign date has shifted into next year, the majority of our work will be completed prior to its launch to limit delays in fulfillment. That's the key point there. We are as excited as you to launch this Kickstarter and can't wait to return to the battlefield with BattleTech supporters around the world. So, read between the lines time from your resident comms person here. The first point to note is I'm delighted that they've given us a date. That's the key point. I don't really care when that date is, as long as it's not like, oh, we're going to do this in 2026. That would have annoyed me. But to just say March, it's a delay of a few months. They've been very open about that. I think we were all expecting it to come out Q4 2022, but we are getting Q1 2023. Although it's very much the back end of Q1. But as long as I have a date and we can plan around that, and it might end up being a delay of a couple of months in terms of getting the final product, I am absolutely fine with that. One thing to keep in mind between now and the end of Q1 is that Christmas exists there. So that basically means for most companies that they don't do very much for like 3 or 4 weeks, or people go on holiday, vacation, etc. So you kind of discount that time period anyway, so I don't see this as being a major drama. One of the key points in there, obviously, is the quote from Lauren Coleman. I think that's a good comms quote because he's trying to protect his freelance artists there. It doesn't surprise me at all that they are suffering from some burnout. They don't have like a massive team of miniature mech designers doing this. So if he said that, I'm sure that's true. It's last week as well. I mean, I made the video last week. I thought that we'd either get the Kickstarter this week or it would get kicked into the long grass. I think I was being positive last week and I was very much pushing we'll get it next week. But what killed it for me in terms of getting it this year was something that Anthony Scroggins posted on Patreon a couple of days ago. He actually put a picture up of the Pillager, the big 100-ton Inner Sphere mech. It's basically like the Inner Sphere version of the Kodiak. It's very crunchy and it's got claws and it's a 100-ton monster. that to me is one of the mechs that you'd release as like a set piece mech. That's one that people will want. And it was literally getting the design out there when we should have been getting the Kickstarter, which it's probably going to be a part of. And as soon as I saw that a couple of days ago, I was like, nope, that's it. There will be no Kickstarter this year, because it just would have been shown off ages ago if they'd have done all the work on it. So they've clearly got quite a bit more to do. Again, just from a like a human standpoint, I hate having to see people get burnt out. So if remember as well, we are getting Alpha Strike, we're getting all those mercenary boxes, later this year. So it's not like Catalyst just sat on their hands. They are actually just pumping out products. The retail side of this is fantastic as well. All my local gaming stores have all the Wave 2 stuff now, and all the Wave 1 stuff as well has been restocked. So you can get all those, like the first wave of the Lance and Star packs, which is fantastic, because you get things like the Marauder and the Archer and the Thor and the Vulture in there, so they're lovely to get. All that's now at retail, so I can't, in good conscience sit here and pick this apart and criticise it, because they are continuously giving us products. And, that intermittent period between now and March, we're getting Alpha Strike. With all the, there's 2 new mech designs in there, there are new variants of the mechs in there, not to mention all the mercenary box sets as well, where I think there are, is it like 3 or 4 new mechs in there? And they've got like the jump capable mechs as well, where you can detach or attach the smoke plume from the jump jet. So there's plenty of things going on. I also expect we'll get a few more of those like Monster Fight Club models as well. So no sitting of hands from Catalyst. They are actually on this, and I think, my initial disappointment when I read this was soon dissipated when I was like, oh, actually, yeah, this kind of makes sense, and there are a lot of things going on anyway. The second big point there, and it's that, I'll just read this sentence again. Though the campaign date has shifted into next year, the majority of our work will be completed prior to its launch to limit delays in fulfillment. Now, Catalyst are quite a conservative firm when it comes to comms, so if they have literally put that in black and white, I think we can bank that. And that basically means that if they'd have released it now, you probably wouldn't have got it any quicker than if they were going to do it in March anyway, because, they're not where they need to be at right now. Therefore, I don't think this is, any skin off anybody's nose, really. If they released it right now, if let's say this video was different and I was saying, oh, we're getting the Kickstarter and I'm going to run through all the details of the Kickstarter here, I would have said at that point, I don't think we'll get this before September, October 2023. I think now that if they can do this on a more orchestrated planned project, which give themselves some breathing space as well, which they're going to have now for the next 5 or 6 months, if they plan it better, they get better product lines in place with the factories and organisation and things of that nature, we'll probably still get it in September, October next year. So, if not, it might be November time or something like that. What I'm saying is I don't think this is going to cause a major delay. It's not going to be like, oh, but it's 6 months delayed, therefore we're going to get it 6 months later. There are obviously things that are very variable in this, which I'll touch on when we get into the pros and cons, that Catalyst can't really control, but they would have been there anyway if it was done now. So I don't think there's any reason with this news to be even disappointed, really. It might cause an 8-week delay in getting the product, but if it means we get a better product and there's more of it and they can do stretch goals and there's better marketing and more people sign up for it, I'll take 8 weeks. That's absolutely fine. Anyway, let's get into the pros and cons. I'll do the cons first, because you always get the negative stuff out of the way first. The main con is very, very obvious, and I won't dwell on this. We might have to wait a little bit longer to get our minis. Hey-ho. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've got about 150 to paint here anyway, so I'm really not sat here thinking, oh, I've got nothing to do. I'm also moving house between now and when we get the next Kickstarter, so I've got a lot of real-world stuff going on that I need to deal with, so I'm quite happy if there's a slight delay on this. It's fine. One of the, I suppose, real-world problems that I think most of us will be facing next year is I think we're going to be in for a global recession. It's kind of looking at some of the financials on it this morning. There's kind of an argument being had, are we in a global recession now, or is it going to be Q2 next year? That might impact on the Kickstarter. I think if they'd have done it now, you don't necessarily have that major crisis where, where people are losing their jobs, they can't afford to buy things like gaming miniatures, etc. Maybe that will impact on the Kickstarter a little bit, but we don't know yet. And things can turn around very quickly in economics, so we'll have to wait and see. The next one I've written is not a con, but it's just something to flag, and I flagged this last week as well, and it's the fact of shipping. Obviously, the shipping's still in a mess, and I think shipping is going to be in a mess for a long, long time. Obviously, like with the best will in the world, Catalyst could do everything perfectly well on this, and there is a COVID outbreak in a Chinese city where our products are sat on a dock and then they don't get moved for 2 months because they literally can't. That can happen. There's nothing we can do about that. Whether they release the Kickstarter now or in March, that's always the sword of Damocles hanging above our heads or their heads on this anyway. That's it really for cons. There's no again, it's a matter of patience and just trying to kind of put it into context for what's going on in the world. So that is what it is. We'll go into pros though, because try and make this into a positive. First big thing is there's no Christmas conflict now, so I think they could have released it this week and they would have got away with not having Christmas conflict. I think that would have been okay. But if they'd have left it another, say, 2 or 3 weeks, I think at that point a lot of people are going to be saving money for Christmas, presents, Christmas vacations, whatever else people are doing at Christmas. So that's now no longer a factor. In fact, given that it's in March, it means that it's the end of March, so people will effectively have 3 paydays post-Christmas to save for this. If they've got low levels of disposable income, they might be able to save back £50, $50 a month in January, February, March, and then use that to fund the Kickstarter with at the end of March. So that's quite good. It gives people a little bit more assurance that they know when they have to kind of start saving their money. It's quite good for me as well in some respects, because I am forking out a fortune at the moment in conveyancing costs, and if you've moved house or you're buying properties, you know how that works. And I also am going to be buying this Kickstarter for several people, so I'm not that bothered that I don't have to drop another £2,000 this month on something else, because my expenditure just spirals out of control sometimes because I'm pretty free with money. But there you go, it's my problem. But that's just a personal thing. Some of you might have those kind of issues as well, where you're like, March is fine, I can spend money then, but now a bit more difficult. Another fact, this is a real world factor as well, and another thing where I'm quite happy given how much money I'm going to spend on this. The dollar at the moment is super strong. This is problematic for the international audience because, traditionally £1 is worth about 70 cents, or approximately anyway. So it's about, three quarters, the dollar is about 3/4 the worth of a pound. And because Americans see a dollar like we see a pound, and it always shocks Americans when they come over here to realise how expensive it is, because they basically have to add 25% onto the cost of everything they're spending. For us though, it works in our favour. So if I'm spending £400 on a Kickstarter or whatever, it's basically only £300. So therefore, I'll buy more of it. Now, it's obviously for an American, having a strong dollar is a good thing and a bad thing. It can work in your favour and against, depending on whether you are buying in or shipping from a company or selling from a company selling from one country to another. At the moment, the dollar is as strong as I can ever remember it, and that's partly because the pound is basically in the toilet at the moment. Not checked against the euro, but obviously the German market's going to be massive in this as well. So if that can kind of get back to some kind of equilibrium where it was 6 months ago, you'll certainly have more people signing up from the international audience. So fingers crossed that happens, because the international audience for BattleTech is really quite important. The fourth point here on pros is a little bit eclectic, but this is my inner project manager. I'd much rather get it right than rush it. Now that they've got that 6-month buffer period, I think we're going to see a much better product. I think we'll see stretch goals. I think we'll see a lot more information, marketing, things like that, things that they can do over a long burn period. when I read that like statement from them, it seemed to me very much as we don't want to rush this too quickly. You know, there is potential issues of burnout and on the project management side if we go too fast. And I completely respect that as well. Like, it's not for anyone outside of Catalyst to determine what their like deadlines and timeframes are. Again, the only thing that I am absolutely delighted about is that they gave us a date, because that means then that we can plan for this. People can again start saving money for it if they need to. So, that's a big thing actually. Again, it's quite an eclectic point, but if it means you have to wait an extra 8 weeks for the product, but the product is several times better and you get more because of it or more for your money, that's nothing. You shouldn't be complaining at that point. That's a good thing. The final point, this is just a bit of a ramble from me now, but it's a pro because I think this gives Catalyst a chance as well to reassess or just reevaluate everything that's going on with the hard product design. Now, why I'm gonna touch on this a little bit because I very recently bought some Forge World products from Games Workshop, and I'm going to do this. Will go off on a bit of a tangent here, but just bear with me. I've got my mistress is Blood Bowl, right? So if BattleTech is my beloved, loving wife, bit weird. Then Blood Bowl is my like cheeky mistress that I visit on weekends. And I keep up to Blood Bowl like quite religiously. I love the new stuff as well. The model designs that Games Workshop put out are just beautiful, as is the artwork. I mean, this kind of you get this like the magazine for Blood Bowl, but the artwork on it is just absolutely glorious. Like the colours, it's got a design team in there that I think just absolutely adore this product. So that really kind of rings true as well when you get the final versions of it. And they've just released the Amazon team. So I've got the Amazon team, and I bought the all the like extra special characters that come with it. One of whom is this chap. Now, just let me get my camera on the screen here so I can see what you can see. I've primed it black, unfortunately, already. Had I known I was going to put him on the video, I would have kept him unpainted. But this is Boa Constrictor, who is a fine cast model from Forge World. Now, Mr. Boa Constrictor, good name by the way, he is, the detail on that model is fantastic. And you can't really see it because I've primed it black and I don't really have the lighting in this little office to, and the background, I need like a white background and a zoom-in camera and all that malarkey. But just trust me when I say that the detail on this little fella is very, very good. But there's something wrong with the plastic, and I think a lot of people complain about fine cast. Now let's just compare that very quickly to this little chap. Again, I'll just hold him up. This is, some of you may have this little chap. This is the Hammerhead model variant that they released recently through Monster Fight Club. Detail on this is fantastic. It's actually it's not a monopose model either. You can basically make this up. You get several limbs and you get the torso, and you can glue it together and make it like how you want it to look. So that's a lot of people like doing that. I'm not particularly that bothered because I don't particularly like gluing things. I hate glue on my fingers. It really like winds me up, and I always end up smothered in the stuff. And I use that Gorilla Glue as well, and it's really powerful. So yeah, anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But this, I've noticed the plastic on this chap that Monster Fight Club are doing is excellent. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to talk about that quality control very quickly, leading into how I think that extra time that Catalyst now have could be beneficial because of the Monster Fight Club agreement that they've got potentially with a Kickstarter, and why that delay might be beneficial for us. Well, you see, the fine cast stuff that Games Workshop put out, and I've noticed this, because I bought quite a few of these models, they're very expensive. I mean, little chap Snake Man here, Boa Constrictor, was £23, which is quite a lot of money for a plastic model, which isn't as good quality as the regular Amazon crew that you get here, which is just on the regular type plastic that's generally used in models. So this guy is very expensive. It's obviously a good money maker for them because they get people like me, like completionists, going to buy all the the special models. But I've noticed that when I've been priming them and painting them, of which I've done like quite a few of them now, paint seems to pool. The plastic just doesn't work well with paint at all, especially with thinned paint. And I thin all my paint, so I get that. Is it Liquitex or it's basically a paint thinner? Put that into the paint, put it into a dropper bottle, and then that just, top tip there, if you ever painting, the key is to use thin paints. Don't ever just slap it on from the container. You want to thin it beforehand. You get a much better coverage and a much better end product if you do that. But on this like fine cast material, it's just not good. Again, the paint, even the spray paint, which is quite unusual, seems to pool, and you don't get like an even coverage. It's also a nightmare to glue together. I mean, yesterday I bought quite a few of the new fine cast models from Forge World, and it was just a real pain to get some of them together. Like, they do things like a tail won't fit together. It will just be like two square tiny parts fitting together, and it just like you have to hold it for ages, and then it will fall off, and then I'll get a drill out and have to drill a tiny hole and pin it in, and it's just not a pleasant experience. Basically, it's not a pleasant experience making them. It's not a pleasant experience painting them. However, because I don't really buy things that often, I don't really care, and they look great. So if the entire like Amazon box was all in this weird plastic resin stuff, then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a nightmare. But it's just one model, so that's absolutely fine. Monster Fight Club, though, again, I've primed these so you can't see, but when you just look at both of them, they look like they're in the very similar resin. This one, though, has none of the problems that the fine cast stuff has. So this paints up, it spray paints really easily. I've not painted the hammer head yet, obviously, but I've painted quite a few of I got quite a few of the Wolfhound 2Cs. And I found no issues with them. Really easy to prime, really easy to paint. Now, why I think that's really potentially beneficial for Catalyst, that because they now know that they've got a company who can like churn these out, they can potentially add them into the Kickstarter on some level. So maybe they put stretch goals in for Monster Fight Club to do like specific variants of mechs or things like that. Or even like worst case scenario, let's say something goes very badly wrong with the Chinese agreement for whatever reason. Maybe Monster Fight Club can step in and do some of the project work for them on the Kickstarter. Not saying everything, because that would be a huge undertaking, and I don't think they'll be set up to do that. But again, the more time that we have here, now Catalyst have got a lot of experience doing the Kickstarters, so I'm sure they've learned a lot from that. The statement they put out shows that they've learned a lot, because they know now not to rush it. So that's actually, we should see that as a good thing. You're never going to get perfection from a company. As long as they rectify their mistakes and learn from their experiences, that's all you can ask, and then deliver you a better product. And they're doing that completely. And I think this is potentially, hopefully, there might be something, because of that extra 6-month period, where there can be some more discussions had, not just with Monster Fight Club, but other companies who can potentially step in and do this kind of work for them. And I'd like to see that as well. I think putting all the eggs in the China basket is slightly, dubious. I'd be slightly concerned about that anyway. I think I'd want some more assurances from home companies like in the US or potentially in Europe, who can maybe step in and do some of this if anything does go wrong. And again, that 6-month buffer we get now, we've got a company in place who have proven that they can do wonderful mechs. Just a point on this little chap as well. I think I got this, someone got me this at Gen Con. But I believe when they did the first run, quite a lot of the hammerheads had a problem with the torso. There were like 2 mold lines, I think, down the torso. They collated data on it. I think they looked into it, and I don't know. I can't remember what happened. I don't know if they gave people a good version of the torso, posted that out to them, or gave them a money back. I'm not sure. I know it was resolved though. And my understanding is that they resolved it very, very quickly, both Catalyst and Monster Game Labs, Monster Fight Club, sorry, Catalyst Game Labs, Monster Fight Club. So, and that goes back to the point that I just mentioned, that I don't expect perfection from a company, especially on a big project and something where you've got like a manufacturing thing in place. But how you judge them is how they react to problems. So did they deal with it quickly? Yes. Did they did give good customer service? Well, I hear yes. There was nothing wrong with my Hammerhead, but I think a lot of people did have a problem with theirs. So that was resolved. I'm sure they learned a lot from that experience as well, because I'm sure that, them signing up to a BattleTech product, and BattleTech is very hot at the moment, that probably really pushed them in regards what they can do for capacity. But that looked to me really successful. Again, I look at this model and think it's absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely on the level of quality that we've got from like the Wave 1 and Wave 2, especially Wave 2. I think Wave 2 was considerably better quality than Wave 1 because they'd learned a lot at that point. So like I said, I'd like to see something like that just for peace of mind and to show some like variety in what they're doing as the physical product goes. And again, that buffer point could act as an advantage. Again, I always try and, if something like negative happens, I think it's always just worthwhile taking the positives out of it. If you adopt that mindset, you lead much more healthy life, put it that way, in terms of being positive about things. It's not about being like unduly optimistic. It's just about taking the good things out of the potential bad. And I think there's a lot of positives here that we can like hang our hat on. Not least of all that the Catalyst are a company with people in it, and they've got a lot of freelancing people, and if they are saying we've got too much on at the moment, so we just need to take a step back and take a deep breath, we've got to respect that. And you should, in your own work as well, if you've got clientele who are very demanding and you said that to them and they were like completely dismissive of it, then that's not a cool thing to do to someone. Like, I think I trust Catalyst pretty much implicitly to get this right. They've just got a wonderful track record with the last two Wave like Kickstarters that they've done, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think be positive about it. We've got that date, March, excellent. There is just one thing, and if anyone from Catalyst ever watches this, I don't think they do, but I don't know. I think like, the videos I do on YouTube are pretty like low-fi and don't really get much traction, but who knows? If they ever watch it, the one thing that I would ask is this, a direct plea, as a force builder and someone who loves to sit with an Excel and kind of list all my forces. If we can get a list of what all the lands packs will look like between, over the next few weeks, maybe not even then, but when Catalyst have them, if we can get access to that and you can tell us what is in the force packs, well, one, it will make me very happy because one of my hobbies one of my sub hobbies is actually force building. So if I can see that, that would be wonderful. But another thing, I think it's commercially quite a prudent thing to do, because you get like fanboys like me then well in advance deciding what I want to buy, and I'll end up buying a lot more Kickstarter because of it, because I'll know at that point what I want and I'll bake it into my forces. So that's just one thing I'd say, like if we can get that, then I'll be completely, like any kind of like problem or issue that I had with this delay will be completely mitigated, because it will give me more time to actually work out the forces. And then nothing, again, completely personally now, but I've now got 150 mechs to paint between like now and March. So, that's even if I got the Kickstarter tomorrow, I couldn't realistically do anything with it because I've got too many models to paint, and I've got these Amazons now. So I think I've got upwards of about 200 models to get through over the next few months, which is good because I love the hobby. So that's nice. Anyway, I think I'll leave that there. Not much else to say. No need to, I think, kick off or go crazy at the moment. I think this is a pretty understandable delay. It's not a terrible delay either. Just to reiterate that point, I don't think we're going to see a major delay in like the end product because of this. So I think we can all rest easy. I think now that we know it's March, I can set my agenda by that, as we all can. And if you need to do it, you can now start saving potentially for that Kickstarter. So pretty much all positive, I think. Anyway, I'll leave it there, and I'll hopefully catch you again next week.